order for the Planning Commission meeting on June 1st. Let's see, to do the Pledge of Allegiance, I guess I'll do that. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Roll call.
Commissioner Heedy?
Here.
Commissioner Padilla?
Here.
Commissioner McLaughlin is absent. Vice Chair Dunstan?
Present.
And Chair Mercado is expected shortly.
Okay. Any reordering of the agenda?
No,
No
sir.
takers?
We're solid today.
All right. Presentations, none. Approval of minutes from the Planning Commission meeting on April 20th, 2017.
Mr. Vice Chair, I move that the minutes be accepted as written.
I have to abstain.
And
One
I
of
will-
one of you can move, or do the second.
Okay, then I'll second them.
Perfect.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Any public comments? No. Consent calendar, none.
Did you want to make a public comment? This is the,
I'm not familiar with the procedure.
yeah, if you want to talk about something that's not on the agenda, now is the time for you to do that.
Now's the
Yeah,
time.
so that's what I figured.
Do we need to get a slip already?
Yeah, you can do a slip on his way out.
Okay, perfect.
Just
On your way out, Phil.
Come on up.
Here?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, my name's Philip Reed. I have a house over on Zack Street. And in 2003, we requested a building permit from the county. And we got it within, it started on July 2nd, 03, and by the end of August, we had it, 2 months from beginning to end to get the building permit. We've currently been, it's a lot that has an antiquated lot line down the middle. I tried to get it split, but the lot is too small to split into two. So the antiquated lot line has no purpose, no point, nothing to be used for. And the county, 12 years ago, issued a building permit on top of that line, and we built the house on top of it. I tried to get the lot split. I went to the city and asked for some information on a lot split, and it was checked out, and it's too small. The square footage is too small to get two lots, two assessor's parcel number. It's got one assessor's parcel number, two lots, can't be split. I already have a house on top of it, and we started this in January, trying to get a building permit. And now it's scheduled to go to you people in July 9th or 6th next month. And I'm thinking, isn't there some common sense here somewhere? This is a lot line that has absolutely no use. I went to Santa Barbara and talked with the assessor's office and the surveyors, and they immediately said a voluntary merger. Simple, quick, easy. I requested that. Buellton doesn't do that. My question, why not? It's taken too long to get this done. And we all hear, all of us, hear about how the bureaucracy in this country has just got everybody bound up in ridiculous, I don't know if it's redundant, but processes which are lengthy, it costs time and money. And the way it's going, this house is going to be built going into December, and I hope we have a really wet year, which means we'll be building a house during rainstorms. And I'm asking for something to be done here to simplify this so we can just do away with this antiquated lot line and get on with it. I got a email today saying that the fire department wants $208 to have a say-so about getting rid of a lot line, an antiquated lot line that it has no. What has the fire department got to do with getting rid of an antiquated lot line? We're not making two parcels. We're making one parcel complete. So what's the problem?
I can give you a briefing, but we can't discuss it because it's not on the agenda. The lot line is a legal lot line and has to be removed per the Subdivision Map Act and Building Code. So in order to get another unit on the lot, he has to have one lot. And to do that is the lot line adjustment procedure through the city. When we incorporated, we did not incorporate the voluntary merger provisions from the county. So we have to do the lot line adjustment, which will eliminate the lot line and clear the title on the property.
Well, it seems like a conflict in terminology here. It's not an adjustment, it's doing away with.
That's, a lot line adjustment takes two lots and makes it into one. That's our process, because we don't have the voluntary merger. So that's what we're processing and moving forward
So
on.
there's
And that's
nothing
all we
that-
can do.
There's nothing that can be done here, or just have to let the bureaucracy work its way through.
It's not bureaucracy, it's law. It's state law,
That's
and it's
bureaucracy.
a legal lot line. You cannot build, and I don't know why the county did it and why planning did it back in the day, but it is a legal lot line. You cannot build over a legal lot line, so we're
already
eliminating
been
it and
done.
moving it forward.
It's already been done.
Well, we can't discuss this any further. It is public comment, but I just wanted to brief the commission on that.
That's it?
Thank you. That's what
Who's
we-
got the ultimate say-so, this guy over here?
Unfortunately.
This is public comment. We cannot discuss
Yes,
more of the project because it's not an item on the agenda. You've provided your information to the commission, and we will move forward with reviewing your building plans and the lot line adjustment.
You need some common sense. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Phil.
Welcome, Mark.
Okay, then we'll go to consent calendar, seeing none. No continued public hearings. New public hearings none, so we'll go to our other business, which is resolution number 17-06, a resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of Buellton making findings concerning the summary vacation of certain portions of excess street right-of-way with respect to the consistency of the proposed vacation with the City of Buellton General Plan pursuant to the requirements of California Government Code Section 65402 for property abutting Assessor's Parcel Number 137-170-068. Irma?
Thank you, Chairman Mercado. Before I start the formal presentation, I just wanted to explain the reason that I put up the exhibit showing the Commons project that was recently approved by the Planning Commission, which puts all of this into context. This request to vacate excess right-of-way has been brought before, it was brought to the city by the owners of the Commons property, which is the assessor's parcel 137-170-068. And the property in question that we're discussing this agenda item on is this crescent shape here that runs along McMurray Road. And I put this up here so you could understand how it fits together with the Commons project. So ZC Commons Holdings.
Irma, could you use the microphone, please, so people at home and in the audience can hear?
That would be good. Thank you for that reminder. Okay, ZC Commons Holdings is the applicant for this request to vacate excess right-of-way, and they are also the developers and owners of the adjacent property. Okay, the property in question is the subject of this agenda item is a approximately 5,000 square foot of unimproved excess right-of-way along a portion of McMurray Road that I was pointing out to you. In terms of a vicinity map, the excess right-of-way, more of a close-up is right here, and this is the parcel that is part of the Commons project. And these were the detailed items that were included in your agenda packet showing where the excess right-of-way is and how it fits into the overall project and how it relates to McMurray Road. little bit of background on this, how this piece of property came to exist. The property was originally acquired by the County of Santa Barbara pursuant to a grant deed back in 1966. The city acquired it upon incorporation as part of a road dedication. But the property has never been improved or utilized for roadway purposes. Currently, McMurray Road is paved, and as part of the Commons project that was approved by the Planning Commission on April 6th, there's a condition of approval for the project that McMurray Road be improved to roadway right-of-way standards. After that improvement occurs, which is as shown on the plans, oops, no, we don't want to do this. Okay. So after that, the improvements to the roadway occur, there will be this sliver of land that is truly not usable, as this will be paved. And the most logical thing to happen is for it to be utilized for a useful purpose, and that would be a part of the Commons project. And in fact, it was part of the conditions of approval for that project that the excess right-of-way be part of the project. The first step in a right-of-way vacation process is that the city needs to make a determination that the roadway standards that are being looked at are in conformity with the general plan, and that the proposed right-of-way vacation conforms to the circulation element of the city's general plan. Staff has reviewed the proposed vacation and is recommending that the Planning Commission make that finding of consistency. And that is the action before the Commission this evening. Subsequently, the City Council will be the body that will take action on the actual vacation of the land and a concurrent quitclaim to the applicant of that property. So it's a two-step process. So we are recommending that the Planning Commission adopt resolution number 1706, which is the resolution making findings concerning the summary vacation of certain portions of the excess street right-of-way with respect to the consistency of the proposed vacation with the City of Buellton General Plan pursuant to the requirements of California Government Code Section 65402. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yeah. When the county acquired it, was any money exchanged? I mean, did it cost the county anything? I don't know if right-of-ways cost money.
That, but I believe this was, I believe we acquired it, and I don't maybe Rose.
Right. Typically, if it's deeded to a public agency, there's no money involved. It was likely as a result of a condition of approval or something like
Okay.
that. So it's something that was just granted by the landowner to the public agency. And that's why at this point, when we're considering the summary vacation, there isn't a monetary amount involved because it would be reverting back to the property owner.
Thank you.
And Irma, did you say that this was, the deed or the grant to the city was before we were an incorporated city?
Yes, it was in 1966.
1966.
And it was a grant deed for McMurray Road. And I don't believe that there was any, as Rose was saying, I don't believe there was any money involved in the exchange.
And just to confirm, you did say it was a two-step process, so
Yes.
we would recommend, and then it would go in front of the city council, and they would make the final determination.
Right, the Planning Commission is making a determination of consistency with the general plan.
Got it.
And that this is the body that does that. And then the actual transaction to vacate and quitclaim the property is a council item.
Got
Because
it.
they're disposing of city property, basically, and that's under the council's purview to do so.
Sure. Okay. Makes sense.
And this was a condition of the sale of that property, or the
approval.
The approval of the property, right? So-
Yes.
So we've already approved that portion of it.
Yes. All right.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
I don't see an issue with that.
No?
That's why I pulled up the project design had taken into consideration the possibility of using this strip of land that's right
Right.
here. And the strip of land that's becoming excess is as a result of McMurray Road's improvements
Yeah.
to city standards. And Public Works Department has determined that there will be no need for that excess right-of-way in the foreseeable future for right-of-way purposes.
Looks like a win-win, so can we obtain a motion?
I'll motion to approve, or to say it's in conformity.
No, motion to approve the resolution.
Resolution.
Approve the resolution 1706.
I'll second that motion.
Vote?
Okay, Vice Chair Dunstan,
Yes.
Commissioner Padilla,
Yes.
Commissioner Heady,
Yes.
Chair Mercado.
Yes. Okay, thank you. Item number 3, which is the review of current parking standards for retail and restaurant uses. Andrew?
Good evening, Chair Mercado, Commissioners. Tonight, we are going to just take a quick look at some, a little bit of research I've done on the parking standards current for Buellton and as compared to other cities in Santa Barbara County and SLO County. And we're going to particularly look at retail standards, parking standards for retail uses and also for restaurant uses, and just kind of compare to see where Buellton falls within the cities that surround us. So you do have a spreadsheet in front of you, and it was also included as an attachment to the packet that kind of summarizes what the retail use and the restaurant use and what their parking standards are for each city as compared to Buellton. So just quickly, in order to sort of summarize this sheet in a way that would be easy to understand and, to analyze here, I kind of just put together this slide here or a slide for each for retail and restaurant, and indicated where Buellton fell. So if you look here, Lompoc, Santa Maria, Santa Barbara, Carpinteria, Oro Grande, Grover Beach, they all have more stringent parking requirements for retail. Generally, these cities have 1 per 250 square feet standard. Buellton, just, I guess I should back up a little bit. Buellton is 1 per 300 square feet of space for retail. And these cities have a standard of 1 per 250 square feet of gross floor area. Now, Guadalupe, Pismo Beach, San Luis Obispo, and Atascadero are comparable to Buellton standards, and they generally have the same standard as Buellton, which is 1 per 300 square feet. Solving and Goleta are the only two that I found that were less stringent, which they have a 1 per 500 square feet standard for retail. Moving on to restaurants. Restaurant was a little bit more difficult to compare. It wasn't as much apples to apples because different cities use different standards. So we use per square foot. Some cities use per stool or table or things like that. So some of them were not as easy to compare, but I was able to take a look and compare some of the cities. So Santa Barbara, Lompoc, Santa Maria, Grover Beach, they all have more stringent parking requirements. They're at 1 per 260 gross square feet, with also with additional parking for number of seats, etc. And I'll mention restaurants for Buellton is at 1 per 300 square feet plus 1 per 2 employees. So they're a little bit more strict there. Solving, Goleta, and Pismo Beach are comparable. They basically have identical standards to Buellton, except for Pismo Beach does not require employee parking like Buellton does currently. And then again, Guadalupe, Carpinteria, Rio Grande, and San Luis Obispo, and Atascadero, they were difficult to compare because, again, they did it by number of patrons, number of chairs, tables, things like that, so it couldn't really make a comparison there. But yeah, you can kind of see some of the cities are at the same standard as we are currently, and some do have a little bit more stringent. So the recommendation would just be that staff recommends that the Planning Commission provides input and direction to staff regarding the city's current parking standards for retail and restaurant uses. And I'm open for discussion or questions.
Dan?
Yeah, is there a standard for the space between them. I don't mean the 8.5 to 9, I mean front to back. Part of the problem that I see where Aru is, there's so little space as you back out before you hit the next car. And that's sort of typical of what you see over at, is it the Crossroads we're calling it?
Yes.
Is there a standard that we say, okay, that has to be 19 feet?
Yes, that we have full code standards for backup areas, and those meet and they're pretty standard across the board for other cities, too.
Really?
It looks tight, but it meets the standards that we have.
Whoa, okay. It's just, I'd say that one, the Aru parking lot is,
I think the Aru parking lot has a lot more problems than just the back out. It's just the way it's
Yeah.
one way in, one way out that
Okay.
makes it difficult.
and then another question is, do the current parking spaces at the Crossroads, is that, because that thing is only a third built out, is that all the spaces that are going to be assigned?
Yes, and they meet our parking standards at the
Oh.
1 per 300. That's why we're bringing this forward.
Yeah.
Is this something you want the city to do a code amendment on?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to add on to what Dan was saying in regards to the project at Crossroads. Obviously, that's the reason why we're talking about this. And, you know, it's only about a third occupied. If the rest of those buildings become restaurants, are we adequately covered from a restaurant parking space?
Per the municipal code, we are.
They are. It's interesting. Yeah, I get a lot of feedback from the community in regards to that parking lot. I think we've all experienced it ourselves, but there's lots of feedback about how that, for some reason, this shopping center just does not seem to work.
It doesn't flow.
It doesn't flow. There's not enough parking spaces.
Yeah.
There's other issues as well.
Hey, we're learning too here. The interesting part about that, and question that a neighbor proposed to me is, when we have a drive-through situation, it seems interesting that the drive-through for both the Habit and for Starbucks go in front of parking stalls, and you see a lot of this traffic backup and all. It's just. I know there's no way to get around that, but it seems interesting. It's inherently a problem.
And not just here, it's everywhere,
sure.
and that type of thing. And we are reconfiguring the Habits drive-through.
I saw your notes today.
Yeah, I saw that as well.
I'd have to agree there, but I support Tractor Supply immensely, and but I try to go late in the afternoon. But I would like to see us try to get more parking out of some of these projects that we have. I know it's always been a big issue, but I think that we need to.
This won't be retroactive to the existing project.
That's true.
so
No, I
for-
know.
For the
I
new
know.
ones going forward.
It's the ones going forward.
How much materially does that 50 square foot difference between a 250 for one to 300 for one really affect? Probably, I don't know, 5,000 square foot. It's another 10 spots. Is that right? That's an extra 500. No, it's only an extra 2 spots, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's 2 spots for a 5,000 square foot building. Would be the difference.
But if there are 5 buildings in that,
That's what I'm
then
thinking.
now you have 10.
And how big is the Crossroads, just to give you?
45,000.
Okay. So it'd be 18 more spots is all we're talking about. So that's the difference in that, it's 18 spots. Would that make a significant difference, I guess?
So I think there
Depending on
may
what
be a
time of the day.
consensus from the commission that we process a code amendment to change the 1 per 300 to 1 per 250 for retail. Is that?
I think that would be fair.
Well,
For a restaurant.
Well,
can
I
support
just
that.
want to start with retail,
Yeah.
and then you guys can discuss the restaurant.
Well, I could support that, or I could support Guadalupe's model, which is 1 per 300 square feet, opposed to 1 per two employees. I mean, that was some of the issues with the commons that the gentleman had, was that, you know, if you figure each building's going to have 2 employees minimum, and then there were, I forget how many how many stores there were. That was 60 parking spaces.
And that sometimes can be problematic because, let's say you approve a use for a building, and they have 4 employees, and it changes use in some point in the future and has 10 employees. you're not going to retroactively make them have more parking. So that it's using employees is kind of difficult unless it's like just a restaurant use and it stays a restaurant use and you know that you have that. But retail, the number of employees could change. So we could be restricting or not. It would be difficult for a retail use.
Yeah, you can't pre-plan for a moving target on that. That makes sense.
Not that we couldn't, but I mean, it would be, they would say, oh, we're going to have 10 employees, we plan for that, and then at some point in the future, they expand and they get 30 employees, but,
Kind of all depends on the restaurant. I mean, you can go to Solvang and a given day and find parking lot, but if you go to Toscano's there in Frederick's Court and it's 7 o'clock, 7:30, you might not find something. But you go there at 8:30, you're pretty good. So I just think it's a time thing. You're just going to have to, But I could go for the 250. I think that's.
I'd
You're only going to get 5 or
retail.
10, but 5 or 10 on a certain part of the day makes a big difference.
I had a question. Have we seen this kind of issue pop up in other projects before Crossroads? I mean, and maybe that's
a little
not a
bit with
question.
Figueroa Mountain, then we got the extra spaces down there. So that was the only other one I can think of. I can't remember any others.
So it's mainly restaurants that we're seeing this historically become an issue. I mean, I think we can say that the Crossroads,
Right,
the restaurant.
Crossroad, yeah.
I mean, retail, I don't know if that makes a big difference here.
I tend to agree with you because that's typically a quicker, less people at one time.
Yep,
Right.
exactly. And you don't need as many employees.
Right.
So it's typically
Right.
one,
Service
two.
industry need a lot more employees.
Absolutely.
So what do you got? So
We need recommendations, so do you want to put out something saying this, and then we can either vote on that one separate, and then we'll go to the...
well, I think for the retail, I think I agree with Brian that the retail is probably not the issue at the 1 to 300 that we're at. So I would recommend that we don't address anything with the retail. That'd be my recommendation.
I would agree with that.
I agree.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll part of the code amendment will be 1 per 250 then. Is that, or?
No, we're going to leave retail as...
Leave 300? Okay.
Yeah.
For the retail, but we want to talk about the restaurant.
Right, okay.
So I got a question about that, if you don't mind, Chair. In regards to the employees, it seems like every single one of, well, at least most of these cities have an employee situation. And I guess the question for the city on that is, how do you guys, I know that when you get the plans, there's a average employee, I would assume, or how do they communicate what the employee base is going to be?
We asked that as part of the project description, how many employees they would have.
Okay. So is there a way of checking that? Like, do you ever have an issue with finding out how many employees are actually at the facility?
No,
Is
we've
that
never followed up on that.
Okay. Just a thought.
And just so as part of your discussions, because Rose brought this up, remember if we're changing the restaurant, that could impact some of the industrial buildings that may convert from an industrial use to a restaurant. Right now, they're going from maybe 1 per 500 to 1 per 300. And if there's extra parking, that usually can be accommodated. But if we change the restaurant rules, that will affect if an industrial building at 1 per 500 wants to convert, they're going to have to find additional parking somewhere. So
That's true.
So that just something in your deliberations.
Or if they could come to us though, right? They could, for an exception to that aligning with that rule, they could come to the planning commission, correct?
I think you can do parking modifications, yes.
But if they're going to have to go from 500 to 300, they're still going to have to find parking spaces.
And that doesn't amount to a lot. So most of the businesses out there that have converted, there's been extra space in the industrial complex to accommodate it. But if you go lower, then there definitely will not be additional space that could accommodate a restaurant. And Buellton's kind of unusual that we allow restaurants in our industrial zones. Most cities don't have that.
Yeah, and it's funny you say that because you think of like industrial eats and others, there might be extra parking, but the streets have a lot of opportunity, and they're nice wide streets, so it never becomes an issue. It's not far to walk, it's
That's correct.
But in this case, you got a crossroads, which is a confluence, and there is absolutely zero parking on the street, so you don't have overflow. So it's kind of a perfect storm in that regard.
There will be some streets, though, at Crossroads, when the public street becomes fully open, there'll be parking out there, so that could alleviate some of it.
It affects the community, right? The tenants. Okay. Well, we definitely, I think we need to do something at a minimum 1 to 250. 1 per 250 square foot, I think would be a minimum, but I don't know, what are your thoughts, guys?
Go ahead. Joe?
Yeah, and keep the 1 per 2 employees. And like you say, that's hard to, they're going to tell you they're going to have 3 in there at a time, and they have 28, but you can't believe that. So.
Yeah, and I think the employees for the restaurants is easy to administer, because if a restaurant going in a restaurant, they're not, it's still going to be basically parked similarly, so that wouldn't be an issue.
I think I support the 1 to 250 type deal. The employee thing to me, it just seems like it's a moving target. I think that going down the extra 50, you might account for that employee space that we don't have now.
Boy, I'd like to keep it in there, because if you have 10 employees.
And let me clarify for Commissioner Padilla that I think where Dan's going is, remember the 1 per 300 is only for the dining area, whereas the 1 per 2 employees is for the non-public area. So the 1 per 250 still wouldn't be accounting for the employees, because you don't include that square footage. However, you could just say 1 per 200 for the whole space, including the workspace.
I guess that's what I didn't know that rule, but that's what my brain was thinking, is the whole space at 1 to 250.
Right, because right now it's not the whole space. 1 per 300 for the public area, and then 1 per 2 employees that covers the non-public area.
Which way would get us more parking?
All depends if they have 10 employees or 2 employees. So 1 per 2, if you have a 1,200 square foot or 1,000 square foot restaurant, 1 per 300, you're getting 3, and maybe you get 1 more out of it if you're doing 1 per 250. Whereas, and they had 2 employees, and then it's 4 and 4, so it kind of is a push on that.
But if you put it down as 200, you have a set standard, a goal to where it can be met. If you add the employees at the 250 level, if they have a business that's thriving and stuff, and they need to expand, then they're kind of in that little gray area where we're going to find an extra parking now. So I think I would support better going at 200 and take out the employees.
And do 200 for the entire
thing,
building.
For the entire space, and then leave out the employees.
So in that scenario, 1,000 square foot, you'd get 5 spaces rather than the 3 or 4 you'd probably get now.
Right.
Because then you take out that, well, where do we go,
Okay.
make it nondescript, just basic.
You have 1,000 square feet and you need 5 parking
Exactly.
spaces.
Is that the most aggressive on the sheet here, Andrea?
It's actually more aggressive than anywhere else.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
That's
More aggressive, and then again, it's hard to compare
Oh,
some of
everything's
them
over.
because they have per seat, per
Right.
stool, per table, yeah, so.
Per
But
tablecloth.
from what I can see, it is more strict from what we can actually compare, but from what we can't compare, it's hard to say.
I do fear that we would go too far on the other side of the pendulum to make it more difficult for business. So.
I'm agreeing with you there too, because you need to have a certain amount of space just to operate the business, and that's why I like the 250 across the board. It seems to be, you pick up an extra space or 2, which covers the 1 per 2 employees. I'm just thinking about this 1,000 square foot. If 25% of the building is used for kitchen, the other 75 is for public, that'd be 250, which is 1 spot. And we may be losing 1 actually in that particular case. But then on the medium size, like that 5,000 square foot restaurant that we're putting in, you're going to put 1,000 square foot kitchen in there, but you may only have 4 employees, you pick that up in that number then.
So you want the 250 for the gross square foot
That's
of
it.
the building?
Make it real simple. Don't worry, because then that extra 50 covers the employee. That's kind of what I'm thinking. So,
I can go with that. Can we have public, or we can't have
Is
public?
that consensus that go with, I think Commissioner Healy's a little,
Oh, no, I'm just trying to think. I think the general thing here is what we're trying to do is get more parking spaces. And
step up
Please
to
come
the
up.
plate.
More the merrier.
If I may just interject one thing, I noticed that on Santa Barbara's, it has basically the 4 spaces per 1,000, which is 1 per 250,
Right.
or 1 space per 3 seats. And so I did a little research on the parking a while back, and there's different standards that they use in evaluating like fine dining restaurants that have much more square footage per diner than like a fast casual that packs in the seats closer together. So, that's maybe take a look at how many seats they're proposing, or for restaurants that are going to produce more occupancy.
yeah, but who knows when that fine dining's going to turn into, Chub and Grub.
This is true. But that's another way to look at it,
That doesn't
because the
sound like a very
crossroads.
attractive idea. Live up to your
I just had to think of a name.
Step up, Don.
Thank you, Commissioners. So just a couple comments from the audience. Obviously, we have a approved project that this really doesn't affect us, but just some thoughts in the process of parking, because obviously we've looked long and hard in our development on parking. If you, as a comment, if you actually go towards a straight 1 space per so many square feet, like you're potentially discussing, versus your current standard of 1 space for so many square feet front of house and then 1 space for 2 employees, I think you may find, and it kind of was brought up, that you actually will probably lose parking in most restaurants and not actually gain parking. So for example, I know with our project firsthand, we had 36 designated employees for restaurants. So that's 18 spaces. I think if you went this other direction, we wouldn't have those extra 18 spaces. It would probably be closer to 10 or 12 spaces based on square footage. So just something to take into consideration. I also think that the type of restaurant, and while that's hard to judge in the future for a second generation restaurant, the type of restaurant for how things are permitted, it really is the bigger driver. I think when you look at the Crossroads development, and interesting enough, the Crossroads actually has excess parking over their required parking amount, that you find that it's more the fast casual restaurants with drive-through and those style of restaurants that really become the cloggers of that development. Also, parking lot design, I think, has a lot to do with it. That parking lot was designed potentially a little differently, and you didn't necessarily have 3 fast casual restaurants, or 4, I guess, if you include Starbucks in there. You'd have a much different dynamic. Some of the issues that have been brought up with parking with Aru and some of the other local businesses, I think, are very valid, but I also think they're very intermittent issues, versus the Crossroads is a little more, constant issue, especially around, probably between 11 and 2, and then again in the evenings, again, because of the fast casual restaurants. So I think there's a lot of things that probably should be taken into general consideration of the style of restaurant. I think, number of seats could be a good way to look at parking if you're looking at making it more restrictive for restaurants. But I would just, caution that whatever decision you make, you actually don't broaden it and make it less parking from a restaurant perspective, which could be, very easily done, with the best of intentions in mind, but yet a little change with employees or what have you, I think could have an adverse impact. I also would comment with restaurants, with the industrial zone, it is, I think, unique for the city. I think that, restaurants within those spaces, that's a kind of a whole different ballgame when you look at industrial zone property and then retail uses going into industrial zone property. So that may be something as a separate issue to look at in and of itself. But those were my comments. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Just did a little math thing here. So 2,000 square foot building, 1,500 of it is front of house and 500 of it is back of house. With 6 employees, you need 8. If we take it down to 250. And under our current ones, if you do it just 250 all over, you need 8. So if you do it so it comes out the same. So we haven't done anything, in that one scenario. So maybe it does need to be lowered from 250 plus 1 for 2 employees. It's just doing the math real quick, and I'm sure it's someplace wrong, but at that scenario, nothing was gained. And I think this is what we want to do.
Okay, come on.
So just to comment down, I mean, the math is correct. I think, like as we took a look at our project and looked at restaurant sizes, and you are making some estimations of restaurants and what they're going to employ. For us in a similar size restaurant, I don't know if you had 6 or 8 employees in your scenario, but I think we were using somewhere in the realm of 12 employees for a similar size restaurant, because you've got so many people that need to be back of the house, so you're going to have a couple cooks, a dishwasher, so on and so forth. You can, potential hostess, a couple waiters, a bartender, whatever it may be. So, long story short, I just think that when the commission and the planning staff look at what a restaurant is saying that they're going to have employee-wise, I think there's a little variability there, but it needs to kind of pass the sniff test. If it's a fast casual, it may be able to get by with 6 to 8 employees for their space, because it's not a table service restaurant. It's a little different operation. But a full service restaurant, you're probably at least looking 10 to 12 employees per shift as kind of being the standard. So anyway, thank you.
Because I did the same thing, taking a 4,000 square foot restaurant, and we actually lose 2 spaces based on the number of employees that I would employ.
Is that just using gross square feet
Exactly.
of the whole?
Yeah, right.
So I think we need to leave the employee part in there.
Mark had a comment.
I have another option that, if you look at what Santa Maria does, they have 1 per 65 for basically the public area, and then 1 per 260 for the non-public area. So that would take into account employees as well as patrons, and so that may be a better route than trying to pick 1 per 2 employees or
Right.
whatever. So it doesn't have to be 65 and 260, but that may be another option that can gain more parking, and then maybe a little more doable.
Be more in line with what we're thinking, I think.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a recommendation to be made without someone doing some math for us.
What I would, let's say if the commission is in favor of doing that route of calculations, when we bring an ordinance back, we will have different versions of public versus non-public with examples against our current code to show you, and then as part of your recommendation, you can pick the one you want, and we'll include that in the resolution.
I think
And what's our desired increase in terms of parking? 10% more, 20%? I know more. Thank you. But because we could give staff direction that way. Say we want to see a formula that works out on average to 15% more parking, 10% more parking. That's much easier than just giving them, say, make it more.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's a fine balance, like what the gentleman said. I mean, at some point, you're going to make it undoable for people to come up with, okay, instead of 15, I'm supposed to have 18 now, or whatever that 20% works out to be. I would just say I like Mark's idea of let's just bring some scenarios back and pick, what's a typical restaurant here? 1,500, 2,000 square feet.
But
Yeah, we'll do the whole range. We'll do a
Small, medium, and large.
fast food, a casual sit down, and maybe like a hitching post. So we can give you the variety of scenarios under existing code, and then we'll do a 5, 10, 15, 20% increase based on
That'd be great.
That'd be good.
non-public
Yeah.
public
That's
areas.
then if you see the numbers, they can compare
That's what I'm
apples to
saying.
apples.
Yeah.
I like Irma's idea as well.
So
with the-
we don't want you to necessarily pick numbers now until you can see what
Right.
those things
What
are.
really gives us more parking?
Right.
Ask Mr.
Yes.
Chair.
Please.
it's great to go by square foot, but how does it work? Let's take Ellen's over here. The front room is approximately maybe 1,000 feet. And so if you take 250, that's 4 spots. But in that area, there are 15, 20 tables. That means 20 cars is going to need a spot for there. So you can't just go by square feet. We have to see how many tables there will be and how many persons can be occupied. That would be more accurate, I think.
And I think dropping the number down to 1 per 60 or 1 per 100 would take into account the number of tables that would be in a particular space. So, but
So, yes, that's.
yeah,
that's-
so
I
we'll,
would
we'll look
go
at
for
that and provide some
Yeah,
options.
I want to see
and-
some numbers and just,
Yeah.
That'd be great.
and it'd be nice to maximize them, but, I don't think we want to squeeze the businesses out.
No, we want to be practical, but we also want to be appropriate for the amount of
Yeah.
parking.
And not have another crossroads.
And again,
Because it helps
this
everybody.
might be a good option, I'm sorry.
No, it helps both options. I mean, you gotta look at the business owners want to have the people there, but if it's cramped or something like that, then people will not come. I mean,
Yeah.
there's just certain areas that you don't go to. I do.
No, we avoid
Yeah, and
crossroads.
and this may be a good option for the industrial areas also, who may have a very small space with a small public area and a small kitchen, so it's not going to overly affect them
right.
compared to a 5,000 square foot restaurant or something like that. So it may put some, little equality in there, so some of those spaces can find the number of parking spaces to convert to a restaurant use. So we'll take a look at and then come back to the commission with some options and a resolution for recommendation at some point.
That's great.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
you.
Thank you, staff. Don't we have any written communications, planning commission comments? Seeing none, we'll go to planning director report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As I mentioned, they will be restriping the drive-through to be where the cones are. So the cones will be gone. Chipotle, Fire Department, and Habit, and the property owner have all agreed that it's a better solution. They've also restriped the parking spaces, so all the non-standard spaces are now either compact spaces or designated as motorcycle spaces. So there's no 7.5 foot spaces out there that they had put in. The 6 oak trees have been, replacement oak trees for the 2 out front have been placed at the site, so they've taken care of that. And we're moving forward with some items to release H&R Block. And then the rest of that building will be held until McMurray Road, which is currently under construction. You've seen the fencing up. So they're starting construction on the widening. That and the other public improvements on the site need to be completed before the rest of Building A is completed. So that's kind of where we are on the Crossroads project. And Commons and Live Oak, I believe, are working diligently on their plans to get them submitted for plan check.
So, Mark, just on the crossroads, being on the commission years ago, I mean, when we had grandiose plans and an 80,000 square foot
Right.
anchor, and things, no residential until retail was built out. What's going to happen to that? I mean, are there even any works for doing the rest of Crossroads, or is it just sort of that's what you see is what we get for the foreseeable future?
Well, the senior housing, which was approved by the commission, they're still looking for financing, so that's still there.
But that's the back part, right? That's
Right.
toward-
The hotel, there is still somebody interested in moving forward on the hotel, with the hotel site.
And the lake we were supposed to get, and the grassy areas, and all the things.
Oh, I mean, for the park?
Yeah.
Well, no lake, but they're working on the park as well, so
Gonna
we're,
be a park surrounded by dirt, or?
no, there'll be dust controlled on it, but it'll just be the senior site in the hotel that would still be vacant at this point.
Because I remember the grandiose plans we had.
Yes, I can, if you can imagine the traffic with an 80,000 square foot shopping center.
Oh, yeah. And 27 employees. And
Yeah, I saw the road construction. Was it only on McMurray? 'Cause I saw a lot of it actually on 246 as well. Are they doing some work there?
That's good.
There are multiple projects going through the city at this point in time. So first on Highway 246, from 101 all the way to the west And Caltrans has their CAP-M project. So during the sidewalks, they're going to actually grind and repave the roadway. And then from 101 East, they're going to be doing the slurry seal. So right now they've been grinding the thermoplastic paint that's out there, and then they're going to come back and slurry. The slurry is supposed to start next week sometime, and the paving for this West End project is supposed to start in June. They're waiting for other utility work that still needs to be completed.
Plus
And
McMurray
then-
Road, yes.
And then McMurray Road is being widened by the Crossroads Development Team for that section, between the gas station up to Valley Vineyard area. So that's going on right now. We don't have a good time frame. We thought paving would start in June, but we're still waiting for a gas company and other utilities to finish their relocation and work there too. And then we have the city's road maintenance project. So that's some localized R&R repair and sidewalk and concrete repair throughout town. But the main areas that's going to be worked on is the Thumbelina neighborhood. So just be aware, you're going to see a lot of construction vehicles, asphalt trucks, and so on throughout town. So we appreciate everyone's patience over the next couple of months.
And 2 projects are not ours, just you're aware.
Okay. Mark, you had mentioned a couple weeks back that there was some work going to be done on 246 for just circulation as far as taking left turns into, is that a part of this at all? Or
You mean into Crossroads?
into Crossroads or just some?
Caltrans still hasn't done anything there. What they're doing is looking at bicycle striping for bicycle lanes from our east end of town.
Okay.
They're still not responding on the traffic issues and left turns and things like that.
No response. Okay. Fantastic.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any other comments?
Good.
Seeing none, we'll adjourn at 6:52.